I'm struggle streaming already, people. Good morning, good afternoon, good day, and good evening. Now, I don't know what time of day it is for you, but for me, it's a good time of day. We are back at it again today. It is another sports talk weekend. We are talking about the All-Star game. Specifically, we're going to be talking about basketball a little bit here. And I want to really get into the game itself being All-Star weekend. And it might seem a little clickbaity, or if you know me well enough by now, you know definitively this is not clickbait on talking about the game today, as well as it's not always guaranteed to you that as the best player that you are going to be the winner. Now, why would I say that? Why would I jump into it so controversially? Why would I talk about a situation where most people are really enamored with sports? They're really enamored with the game of basketball, really enamored with All-Star Weekend, and here I come just throwing cold water on the whole deal. Why in the world why does that matter? What's going on here? Well, I don't want to bury the lead. I'm not going to sit here and make you wade through this. As you can tell, when it comes to sports, from my perspective, a lot of times I think that the game, while maximum effort may be exerted on behalf of the players, the outcome of the game is not always in doubt. At least not from the fan standpoint, it may be, depending on who the player is. But from the standpoint of the game, the outcome is not always in doubt. What do I mean by that? Well, there's a thing in sports in general where people step into sports, they step into I consider it the entertainment field. They put in all the effort. They work as hard as they possibly can. They get to the top level of the sport that they're in. And after doing everything they can, exerting maximum effort, getting all the way to the top, the pinnacle of what it is they're dealing with, be it football, be it basketball. If you're up north and you like it, then it's probably a little hockey in there. Baseball, I don't really consider it a sport. I consider it a pastime, but hey, to each his own. I look at the level of athletic exertion that is required for me to consider it a sport. Otherwise, yes, I will consider it America's pastime, not America's sport. In any event, back on to the NBA, back dealing with basketball. There is a common concept whenever you're looking at basketball, and it's and I'm going to explore basketball, sports in general, but today we're going to specifically drill down on basketball, and we're going to look at basketball as a microcosm for life, or for our society rather. These are the values that we espouse, and basketball many times likes to get in there and give us the values that we all talk about, right? So everybody has values, yes, but basketball or sports in general, people like to have the values that they're going to they want to see espoused. So what are those values that we're looking at in basketball? Well, it's the idea, the thought process behind a meritocracy. That if you do your best, if you exert maximum effort in competition with other individuals, and if you are able to achieve a high level above or a higher level rather above your peers, then in those situations, you should achieve a certain level of fame and success. And that's what we look at within sports. We consider sports many times to be very a meritocracy, something where it's very meritorious for whether or not you're going to succeed or not in regards to sports. And again, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here unless you guys want to come up. I dropped the link. Anybody wants to talk about it, we can talk about All-Star Weekend if you would like to. But I'm dealing specifically with basketball right now in general. And the fact that the best players aren't always necessarily the players who do the best, right? What do I mean by that? Well, you would think that in order to have a meritorious system, there is a set of rules that as a society that we come to agree on, and those rules are enforced at all levels of the game for those individuals or in society. However, that's not always the case, right? As a matter of fact, let me share something with you guys. I'm gonna share my screen with you, and when I do, I want you to take note of this one aspect of the game that's also a microcosm in life. On while in the game, we think of certain things certain ways. We don't always consider that the outcomes are what we want, right? So let's look at these outcomes and or this thought process. And let me.
Should Harden be concerned with the officiating moving forward?
I'm gonna jump ahead here.
Be consistent. Timeout. I need consistency from you guys, even if you get the call right.
So here he's talking about consistencies in the calls, right? And this is something that we understand when watching basketball.
Or if you get it right now and you usually get it wrong, be consistent. If you're going to get it wrong that way all the time. I understand that, right? And if it's personal, that's no good. But my question is, what are you going to do about it, James Harden? First of all, James Harden's game, the part that's based on exploiting the rules, where he draws the fouls when it's really a lot of time an offensive foul, really by the book, but he gets the star call. And Chris Paul, going way back, I mean, even before the Clippers, gets 4 steps when he turns the corner on a guy going to the basket and he doesn't get called for it. Like, these guys get star calls. I get it. But you know what the problem with that is, Stephen A? I know it's James's world. I get it. It's LeBron James's world. When you are playing LeBron James, you're not the superstar. You're a bit player in LeBron James's world. So if you're complaining, oh, I'm not getting the superstar call, that's because when LeBron James on the floor, you're not the superstar. You're a monstar. You know, that's what you are.
So what he said, 2 things in there that helps to highlight exactly what it is that why it is the best don't always achieve or always win. The calls that you get in the game, and from the people who are the pundits and listening to the game and telling you about the game and talking about it later, to the players themselves. Magic Johnson was one who also coined that phrase, superstar calls. Everybody recognizes that it's not based on merit, that you can come in there and you can do things once you achieve a level of fame that means that allows for you to get calls that other individuals wouldn't. The rules do not apply the same way to you as they do to everyone else, especially once you get once you achieve that superstar status, right? And it's expected that the rules don't apply to you the same way. Case in point, let me give you another example. And let's see if this one is queued up and ready to go as well.
Until they make the adjustment.
And it looked like Williamson got fouled as he was trying to spin on Gallinari, who...
You can't call that, man. No. You can't call it. First of all, he's a rookie. Second of all...
Did you hear that? I say Zion Williamson comes in and he gets a call. And he says, no, you can't call it. He's a rookie. You can't give a rookie a superstar call, right? You can't give a rookie a superstar call. There is an understanding that the rules do not apply the same way to everybody on the court, right? For superstars, the rules apply one way, or for people who have achieved a certain level of fame, not even success. So you have a level of success, but there's also a level of fame that goes with it, money that you're bringing in to the NBA. And if you achieve that level, they understand people want to see you. They understand people don't want to see you fouled out. They understand people don't want to see you get called for an offensive foul when you're coming down, has a downhill coming down the lane, and the defender actually has their feet set. Now they're going to find a way in order to tweak those calls to make sure that you get those calls that will make it so that the game goes in you and your team's direction, right? And I say that because now this is a microcosm. This is something where of society, because in society, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a time when we get a level of success in our society where all the rules don't apply to us the same way. We understand it for people who are athletes. We understand it for people who are politicians. We understand it for people in law enforcement, that the rules don't apply the same way to each and every single one of us. And we want to get to that level where we have enough fame, if you get pulled over by the police, that they kind of give you a pass, even if you're doing wrong, because you're getting superstar calls. You want to get to the point that if you are a politician and you have an encounter where a detective comes around, the rules don't apply to you the same way, because you're going to get those superstar calls. So the level of fame we want, and we actually are conditioned to perceive and desire an unjust, unequitable, non-meritorious society. And it's something that all of us are trained that, hey, I want to get to that level also. I want to get, that's the winner circle, right? What are you talking about? I want to get in the winner circle. I want to get to the point where I get those superstar calls where things go wrong and I get in there as well, and they give me those same type of calls. That's what I want. So when you're watching the All-Star game this weekend and you're watching the players play and you're seeing them exert maximum effort, understand that each of them knows that this is the type of game that win or lose doesn't really matter. This is kind of bragging rights deal. It doesn't affect their paycheck in the same way. They've already made it, so to speak. Once they get to the game, there might be some escalators based off of whether or not their team wins or not on how much money they get. However, in the grand scheme of things, when you're looking at them, or when you're looking at it and you see these players playing, recognize that all of them, every single one of them, understands that there's calls that they're going to get or expect to get, and they get upset when they don't get it. They actually get upset. The first clip that we watched, the one where it's talking about Chris Paul and James Harden going to the commissioners and sitting down about a referee who was not giving them the appropriate calls, although it's acknowledged that, as he mentioned, Chris Paul sometimes gets an extra step in there. Similar to, everybody understood back when I was watching basketball avidly, that Akeem Olajuwon gets a few extra steps in there when he's dream shaking, right? Everybody, you might have a player like a Kobe Bryant who can actually get a little carry, cups the ball under as he's dribbling, and that doesn't get called, right? Because he was Kobe Bryant. You know, to see somebody like a Shaquille O'Neal get down there and bump back and actually gets some offensive fouls off that don't get called because he's Shaquille O'Neal, right? So these are all situations where you look at them and you recognize that has the not just the adage, but the insight that people have in looking at the game and say, oh yeah, you got to expect that. That's this player or that's that player. That's LeBron James. That's Kevin Durant. You got to expect that they're going to get those kind of calls, right? That's I was gonna say James Harden has I was teasing when you think about the fact that James Harden could not get on Kevin Durant's team. I'm not gonna say petty, but I definitely understand. It's hilarious when you watch the interaction between them when they were picking the teams. And LeBron James kind of left it out there for him to pick James Harden, and Kevin Durant refused to pick James Harden for his team. No matter how many opportunities LeBron James gave him to pick him for his team. So looking at that and acknowledging that that was comical for me, at least. So they're watching James Harden and Kevin Durant, their feud that was at the team level, continue on to the All-Star game as well, where Kevin Durant had the choice, definitely made sure that James Harden was not going to be on his team. He was not getting picked, not by Kevin Durant. So yeah, I say that, I don't know, that was kind of comical for me. But in terms of the game this weekend, understanding that everybody knows that this game, and I wish most games were played like the All-Star game, where everybody understands that it's not necessarily an actual contest or an actual game. The player's going to exert maximum offensive effort. They're not going to exert maximum defensive effort. And if you do see a player exerting defensive effort in this game, many times, many ways, everybody that's the anomaly. That's the outlier. That's not the norm. And I wish that everybody would start to do the same thing when they watch basketball on a regular basis, to recognize and realize that the refs giving all-star calls or superstar calls or star calls, that's the norm, right? Cheating in front of you and rigging the game in front of you is the norm, right? And I say cheating or rigging the game because everyone acknowledges that it's a superstar call. As a matter of fact, let me go back here. I'm going to share something else with you here because it's something that Stephen A said when let's go back over here and let's take a look and listen to what Stephen A had to say here when listening to. Let me make that even bigger. And giving his rebuttal.
It's Space Jam. You're a monster. You're just one of the other characters. You are not the protagonist. You are not the star. That's LeBron James. So, yeah, his team may get the calls. That's right, just like you get the call. But you know what the remedy to that is? Real simple. Stephen A., the remedy to that is, James Harden, knock down your shots. It may be unfair. The ref may be inconsistent. Maybe LeBron James' team is getting the superstar calls. Maybe you always get that call and now you don't. Right? Maybe the guy has a personal vendetta against you. Who knows? This is a real simple remedy. Knock down your shots under pressure. Then none of that stuff matters. Knock down the shots when it counts.
That's a very
And here's what Stephen A. is going to start this off with. I want you to pay attention to how he starts off.
That's a very altruistic view. I get where you're coming from, Max, but that's you being emotional and holding him accountable for what you want to see him do come.
But is he wrong in what he states, Stephen A. Smith?
Postseason time. It's not that you're wrong. It's that the story.
So it's not that he's wrong. It's that the story
isn't complete. He shot 23 free throws in a game earlier this year against the Nets. He shot 27 free throws in a game this year against the Grizzlies. In the month of January, I think they say he averaged like 13.8 free throws per game. On the season, he's averaging 11 free throws, 11.4 free throws a game. When you look at the explosive offensive repertoire of James Harden, getting to the free throw line, getting those fouls called in his favor, it's key and pivotal because what happens is because he's a lefty, he's not somebody that really elevates significantly on his jump shot or whatever. It's step back. It's creating room for himself. It might be a push off here or there. It could be any of those things. But the reality is because of fear.
So it's not that Max is wrong. He's taking a more altruistic approach to the standpoint of whether or not those calls matter or not. And that he shouldn't, him thinking that they should be able to make those calls, that's an incomplete picture. James Harden's game is predicated, like many superstars in the NBA's game, is predicated on being able to get to the line. That if their shot is not falling, then what they're going to do, they're going to draw contact so they can still get those numbers, so they can still look outstanding. They're going to do all the moves, but then it's going to be, oh man, if it wasn't for the fact they got fouled, they would have sat there, they would have dropped that shot like nobody's business. Or, oh man, if it wasn't for the fact he pushed off on him, he would have drained that, no problem. And everybody still walks away. All the fanatics, all the fans still walk away feeling enamored and feeling like they've seen superstardom. And they can justify why they don't have all the relevant highlights. And just a few of them will do, right? Just a few highlights will do because the other ones should have happened, but they didn't happen because the person got fouled. And you're able to justify it in your mind on why it is that the ball didn't drop for them. Again, this is a microcosm of our society, right? We all want to make sure that in our society today, that there's a reason or excuse. That's something outside of myself on why it is that I failed. And that something else would be another player, not necessarily the powers to be or the system that's in place, right? Someone else put this in place for me, so I didn't, not the fact that the system is unfair. No. Your game is predicated on abusing the system, right? Your game is predicated on getting an unfair advantage in the system. Your game is predicated on the system favoring you over someone else. And when the opposite happens, well, that's not really your fault. You need to address the system to make sure that the system understands that you deserve those calls, that you need to get a call or two that you probably wouldn't get or that you normally would get, but that you're not getting now because of the other team, right? Or because of somebody else, but nobody acknowledges or is able to badmouth the refs, right? You can't badmouth the people who are actually enforcing the rules, the people who are inadequately or wrongly enforcing the rules. And we're going to touch on this tomorrow. And you can probably see where I'm going with this. There's a story that's going on, and we're going to talk about it in detail tomorrow. And I'm hoping that you guys will join me tomorrow when we talk about how the rules are inadequately applied across the board. Right. I want everybody to be in on it, everybody to be there to see exactly how it is that we inadequately apply these rules across the board. So that being said, just like yesterday, I don't want to keep you guys too long. I want to make sure everybody gets some time. Go in there, get your snacks ready, get everything lined out, sit down with your friends and family, and have a good time talking to them and enjoying the game. And make sure you realize and recognize at all times that it is just that. It is a game. It is something something to be played, something that people enjoy playing, and don't take it too seriously, right? It is not something to be taken extremely seriously, and it is not life or death. It is a game. And so long as we recognize it as the microcosm that it is of our society, and that it, in many ways, it does mimic or mirror our society, right? So you get in there and you're thinking, oh, okay, well, excuse me, the game is this or the game is that, and I can't believe this happened. I can't believe that happened, or this person, they would have done this or they would have done that if it wasn't for name the issue, right? That takes it out of your favorite player's hands, takes it out of what it is that they've done. Name that issue, define that issue, and then once you do that, then yes, now you feel better, right? And that's not even that's exactly what the game does, right? The game puts it so that it's in somebody else's hands. It's somebody else's fault. It's not the player's fault, not your favorite player's fault, at least. And it's one of those things that when you look at it, that's just how society works. So, and again, when you look at it, the best player, the best team is not guaranteed to win. And today, nobody really expects that. Everybody expects a good game. They expect a good offensive game. They expect one where the people they're going to run first team to 150 or maybe even 200, depends on how well they're shooting or driving or whatever else. But it's not going to be the first team to grind it out. And the refs probably should not have as much influence today, but they may. Depends on what the incentives are. So as we're looking at it, as we're getting after it, enjoy yourself. Enjoy AllStar Weekend. Enjoy the game. Get after it. Be blessed. And if I haven't told you already, I love you. And may you always, always, always be blessed with peace in your life. We are out of here.